All right, everyone, how's it going? I'm going to be demonstrating this OpenTelemetry, Grafana, Mimir, and Loki stack right here. It's called the LGTM stack, Loki, Grafana, Tempo, Mimir. So I've got this application, and this application is basically just a hello world for OpenTelemetry. You can check it out. Um, I've got a bunch of OpenTelemetry modules installed in here. It's called fastapi. It's similar to Flask. Okay. And really, it's just some setup code for OpenTelemetry and logging, and then a really basic app. So I won't really go through the code too much because the app is pretty basic, and I'll just show you what it does. So we've got an endpoint for getting a quote. If I execute that, it's going to go to the Coinbase API and get me a quote. I've got an endpoint for saving that quote to a database. If I run that, then it saved that quote to a database. Got an endpoint for reading from my database. There it is. And an endpoint for logging data. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and spam some data in here. Why not? Just to have a good amount of data to play with in our dashboard because we want to have some data in there. And then we have another endpoint right here for looking at metrics. So the modules that I installed also installed metrics with it. And these metrics are kind of nice because they tell you how your application is performing, like if your requests are failing, the latency behind your request. So really quick, like I could look at this and I could tell, okay, this endpoint right here, 100% of the time, it was faster than zero point 0.1 seconds. Yeah, because 58 requests were faster than zero point 0.1 seconds out of 58 requests. Okay, I could look at, let's say this one right here, coinable quote, and I could say um, about 60% were faster than zero point 0.1 second, right? Because 66 out of 106 total requests were faster than that. Okay, so we could use that in our dashboard right here. I've got a I've got a visual that basically takes those metrics I was just showing you and it does some division between them. It also does a group by on it. Well, it's a sum by, but it's basically a group by. If you're familiar with SQL group by, that's a group by basically. So it can see per endpoint the latency data on that. Let's go last 30 minutes right here. So how about saving a quote? Okay, we had some bad latency down here. Only 42% of those requests were faster than zero point 0.1 seconds, right? How about reading from the database? Those were 100%. That makes sense. It should be faster to read from a database than to go to an external API, grab a price, and then save it to the database. Now, my question is what part of that request took the most time? Was it writing it to the database or was it going to the API? So using metrics alone, we're not going to be able to answer that question, but that's the whole point of OpenTelemetry. So I've got another visual right here, and what it does is it shows you the different spans. And for now, you can kind of think of that as a type of request. But really, the request is the trace itself. That's the whole request. The span is the part of the request. So, and then we can see the latency over here on the left. So we can see what parts took the most amount of time. So I can see coinable quote save. I can click into it and then I can click view trace. The only reason I have this view trace option right here is because I set it up with a data link. So there's a little data link down here. And what this will do is it'll take data from this series I just clicked on, and it'll run this query that I built right here for it. Okay, so I'll click here, and then I'll click View Trace, and it'll take me straight to that query. I could have just gone to Explore and Tempo and built this query, But it is nice to be able to look at your dashboard and go, oh, this request was taking a long time. Hey, this is part of that request. Let's go ahead and click into that trace. So we did that, and I'll look at this right here. Here we go. We can see that the entire trace is a request, right? From beginning to end, and it's made up of different parts. Each part is called a span. This span took the longest. You can see all the other spans were quite fast. Look at the update span to update the database. You can even scroll down and you can see the query for it. It was very fast. So every part of that request was fast, except for going to the API. Ah, look at that. So now we can not only see that a specific endpoint is going slow, we can see where exactly it is going slow. And there's also a little node graph area right here, which will indicate in red which part of the request took the most amount of time. So we start here with Nginx, it goes to Fast API, and then here it took 92% of the time for that request, I believe is what it's telling us. So most of the time for this entire request was spent just going to the Coinbase API and getting the data. Here is connecting to the database. That was fast. This was performing a select, performing an update, and then building and sending the request back to the client. Okay, so everything was pretty fast except for the actual Coinbase API request, right? So that's good to know. Um, so basically, using OpenTelemetry, it lets you be a detective. You know, you, when you use the whole LGTM stack, right? Because we were able to use our metrics here to find out which endpoint was going slow. And then we used another metric to help us find what trace it was, right? And then we found that trace. We queried it over here, and then we were able to really break that trace down. And see what parts of it were going slow. Okay, and that's not all that there is to the LGTM stack, right? We also have logs in here. So a couple more metrics too, no big deal. But the logs are kind of cool. So I can search for, let's go last 15 minutes. I can search for the word error. Let's see, do we have any errors? Yeah, there was one error log. And right here we have when it was and how many there were. It's good to know. How about info? Okay, a lot of info logs right here. We can scroll through them, see them all. We can just get rid of all the text and just go all logs too. Okay, this is good. Logs are good for helping you troubleshoot too, right? But you're not going to get the level of detail that you do from OpenTelemetry from logs. You know, you're not going to be able to see how long it took at each point, each span of the trace. So that's really nice. Um, and of course, with the Grafana stack, you also can like download a bunch of other pre-existing dashboards and get all sorts of data on it. So that's always helpful too. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much the LGTM stack right there. This is the little OpenTelemetry app that I created just to demonstrate the logs and being able to, you know, watch the traces and whatnot. So these are the modules for that. If you liked what you saw, then I would appreciate some feedback and hopefully this was helpful for you. Otherwise, thanks for watching and thank you.